Good evening and welcome. You're watching The Last Word. I'm Vishnu. On the program tonight, there's hope for the 7 ex-Indian Navy officers and one sailor who are on death row in Qatar on charges of espionage, charges that have been completely denied. The External Affairs Ministry has now said that the Prime Minister met the Emir of Qatar on the sidelines of the Climate Change Summit in Dubai recently, where the two leaders had a good discussion on the overall bilateral relationship, which included a conversation on the well-being of the Indian community, which presumably would also mean a reference to the Navy men. The allegations against these Navy officers and the one sailor have come as a shocker with no real clarity on why they were charged. Hearings on their appeals have now taken place and the Indian ambassador has met them on the 3rd of December as well. On the show this evening, is there finally hope for the families of the ex-Navy officers and the sailor who've been on death row in Qatar? Joining us now, Captain D.K. Sharma, the former spokesperson of the Indian Navy, Prabhu Dayal, the former ambassador for India in Kuwait, and Captain Alok, director of the India Foundation. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. But first, let's just get a quick reaction on what the External Affairs Ministry has said.
Prime Minister met the Emir of Qatar in Dubai on the sidelines of COP28. I think he put out a tweet. My understanding is that they're good conversation on the overall bilateral relationship as well as in the well-being of the Indian community, as he said. There have been 2 hearings. As you know, we filed an appeal, as is from the families, and the detainees had filed an appeal. 2 hearings have since been held. Meanwhile, our ambassador got consular access to meet all 8 in prison on 3rd of December. And as I said, this is a sensitive issue, but we will continue to follow, and whatever we can share, we will do so.
Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, do you believe that there's now a genuine sense of hope which the families can have at this stage after, obvious despondency over the last couple of months?
Well, Vishnu, I am extremely optimistic after our Prime Minister's meeting with the Qatari Emir in Dubai just a few days ago. I've seen the visuals of that meeting on television, and there was great warmth between the 2 leaders. I can see it now in the picture that you are showing. Now, a lot of these decisions depend on what the Emir thinks, because in the Gulf Sheikdoms, the power of the ruler is very, very important. So, first of all, I think that the initiative taken by the Prime Minister to meet the Qatari Emir and, of course, discuss the welfare of the Indian community, those discussions must surely have included this issue of the arrest of the 8 naval officers, although nothing has been made public in this regard. But knowing how our Prime Minister works, he must have taken it on himself to discuss this issue with the Qatari Emir. And this is what gives me hope. You know, the personal initiative and the interest which the Prime Minister takes. As it is, things have started changing in the recent months. These officers were in detention since August 2022. There was nothing known about why they were arrested. Some disclosures have been made confidentially to our government in this regard, and there has been consular access given. Earlier, they were kept in solitary detention. Now, consular access was given to the representatives of our embassy. And following the Prime Minister's meeting, the ambassador has been given personal access, consular access to these detainees. So I have reason to be hopeful. And my hope, as I said earlier, comes out of Prime Minister's meeting with the Qatari Emir.
Captain Sharma, now you've known many of the men who have been under detention now for nearly a year. Could you tell us a little bit about them and why you believe that the charges, of espionage it just seems very difficult to believe them at all?
Good evening, Vishnu. And as the ambassador has said that he's only optimistic, I'm very sure. Vishnu, there is a reason for our Prime Minister to, meet him. And as the friendship between the 2 countries is there, it is only a matter of time. We all know it, that first of all, these guys are not involved in anything. Yes, they have become victims of circumstances. So be it. And now, since the briefing of the MEA today, the ambassador has been given access which means a huge step forward. Otherwise, we were only listening that there is some kind of consular access and the advocates and various judicial people were able to meet. But today's news is such a welcome news, which only gives us a signal that please wait. The highest office of India is interacting with the highest authority in Qatar. So it's only a matter of time. Patience is the key here. And the messaging by the meeting of our Honorable Prime Minister with the Emir of Qatar, says it all. We don't have to, speculate now. Yes, it might take a little time, but I'm confident. I'm telling you, not being optimistic, positive, this will show some result, but there is always a time lag between how things happen, how it will be sorted out, and how it will be, finished once and for all.
Ambassador Dayal, just going back to the point that you were mentioning, while the External Affairs Ministry spokesperson did refer to the meeting between the Prime Minister and the Emir, a meeting where they spoke about the goodwill, about the well-being, I should say, of the Indian community, there was no direct reference in his statement to any conversation which took place about these officers and the one sailor. How should one read, his statement? The External Affairs Ministry statement today?
Well, Vishnu, as you know, everything doesn't come out into the public domain. There are issues which are sensitive and which are kept confidential. As I said, our Prime Minister must have discussed this matter with the Qatari Emir, but there is also a simultaneous understanding to keep things under wraps. Not to go public, not to go to the media, not let facts come out into the open. It's a sensitive matter. There is a judicial aspect. There is the matter now before the Court of Appeal. If it's rejected, it can still go up to the Court of Cassation. But knowing the overall atmospherics and knowing how things work in these Gulf Arab countries, the sheikdoms, if the sheikh or the emir is well disposed, it makes a huge difference. So as the previous panelist said, there is, I'm never going to say that I'm sure because nothing is certain till it happens. But I'm extremely optimistic. And this is so because of the Prime Minister's meeting with the Qatari Emir, and I think this could be the game changer.
Right. Captain Alok Bansal joins us as well, Director of the India Foundation. Captain Bansal, these officers and that one sailor, they've had a distinguished career in the Indian Navy. They've had important commands as well. Therefore, the entire issue of them being involved in espionage seems to be rather bizarre, the allegations, right? That's the key point.
Undoubtedly, I think they were doing a phenomenal job training the Qatari Navy. And I had the good fortune of personally visiting their office and seeing the facilities. They were doing a yeoman's service. They had actually breached a very, very important citadel where only European powers had this prerogative, or I can say the whites who were training the Gulf sheikdoms and their armed forces. So they had managed to breach this very, very select group. And I think they were doing phenomenally well. And I think this sort of an allegation looks quite implausible. The only thing which I feel is that there has been some business rivalry or some attempt by inimical forces to dislodge them. And I think some casual conversation or some casual banter over telephone has been used against them to put them in this sort of a situation. And I'm sure with Prime Minister's meeting and now Indian ambassador meeting them, to me, it looks that things should improve in days to come.
Captain Sharma, it's also been an absolutely horrific 1 year for the families. I mean, out of the blue, these men were detained a year back. They were told they have to leave. And as they were, as I understand it, as they were getting ready to physically leave, they were detained. Then there was this sense of hope among the families that they'd be back by Diwali after consular access actually took place. And then this death sentence came. So for the family, the loved ones, it's been a horrific 1 year. Could you share, their sense of hope and anticipation now?
Vishnu, You're very right. It's been harrowing time for them for the last 1.5 years now, out of which two daughters were married without their father being present. What worse can happen? I mean, say the parents, the fathers, the families looking forward. They were supposed to join. They were, we were told tomorrow, day after, and solitary confinement. And after that, now at least they were put two in a cell. Then we came to know that now they can visit the gym. And today's news. So it is all, I think, small steps are leading towards a good news, which is likely to come. And we know it all that the highest office in the country is directly, dealing with the case. So the families have got this assurance that the highest office is looking into it. You have to just hold your horses, remain patient. You have been patient for the last 18 months. And it's only a matter of time. With the Prime Minister meeting the Emir, the messaging which comes out, and you know it well, there is a strategic message to it. Hold on. He is doing something, but as the ambassador said, everything should not come out, and it does not come out.
Yeah.
Things take their own time, and they have their own dignity over there. It'll all happen. Mark my words, we will be on the show soon saying that they have been, let off and they are back in our own country.
Ambassador Dayal, we have an excellent relationship with Qatar. Yeah, I mean, and this is in a sense a blot in terms of recent events, obviously. But the strategic relationship we enjoy is something that not just India but Qatar has built up as well. And that is so important because the relationship we enjoy with them now is not the relationship we had, let's say, even 10, 12 years back.
Well, Vishnu, what you say is equally true of our relations with a number of other Gulf Arab countries. For instance, look at our relationship with Saudi Arabia. There is such warmth between Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and our Prime Minister that the nature of the relationship has been transformed. Our Prime Minister has developed a close rapport with the ruler of Abu Dhabi, who is the president of UAE. And as a result, there have been such an exchange of visits. Our Prime Minister has made it a point to visit the UAE, and he's done it 6 times. I may mention that Mrs. Indira Gandhi had visited UAE in 1981, and after that, there was no prime ministerial visit till Shri Narendra Modi became Prime Minister, and he visited in 2015. So he has developed a close relationship with a whole host of countries, including, of course, Qatar. And you see that in the body language between him and the Qatari Emir. And I think that this factor will be extremely important in determining the outcome of the case relating to these 8 naval officers. I think the Qatari Emir will have a say in their fate, and I'm optimistic about the outcome.
Captain Bansal, could you share a few details about the men themselves? The fact that they held prestigious commands while in Indian Navy service. They were entrusted with incredible responsibilities over here. They know a thing or two about maintaining confidentiality. All officers at any level are trained to be careful about anything which could be deemed to be sensitive, right? So these people are not inexperienced, which is what makes all of this all the more bizarre.
I know 3 of them personally. Commander Purnendu Tiwari, who was actually the managing director of the firm and whose idea and brainchild was this, was a very, very bright officer. He had commanded warships. He was a very bright, outstanding officer. And you can imagine coming out with an idea like this and breaching a closely held citadel where only Europeans were training this, and this was the sole prerogative of colonial powers to train the armed forces of these Gulf sheikdoms. He managed to breach it, and they, within a short span of time, did phenomenally well. They set up the Naval Academy for Qatar. They were training, they had different verticals. Not only were they training the Navy, they were also providing logistic support and maintenance support to visiting ships, merchant ships, warships, etc. And they were planning to expand into other countries of the region. And this is at this very crucial juncture this happened. And this is extremely sad. Similarly, the next two officers, Captain Verma and Captain Navtej, they had also been brilliant officers. They were heading their own verticals, were very, very bright officers in the Navy. They knew fully well what classified stuff is, how to deal with it, how conscious they need to be as far as classified and secret things were concerned. And they were very, very responsible officers. So I think this sort of a thing is, to my mind, is not feasible that they were indulged. But obviously, certain powers inimical to India have used something out of context to accuse them of such heinous crimes for which they have now been incarcerated for almost over a year. And that's what is very, very sad and causing deep distress and anguish to the families. I was fortunate enough to attend at least one daughter's marriage whose father is there. And I can say it is actually a very, very somber moment. It was really a very sad state that a daughter, after waiting for so many months, had to get married because the lady felt that you can't get indefinitely be waiting. I think, and it's really sad, I think so. And I hope now we are
Well, hopefully there will be celebrations
right,
once these men do come back, and let's just all hope that that is something that does take place. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. A genuine sense of hope now with the Prime Minister having met the Emir of Qatar. What really did they discuss? We may not know, but hopefully it is something which works towards the release of these men.